So we've got three really interesting things to talk about when it comes to the Galaxy Z Fold 7. One about a possible official S Pen comeback, one about its pretty impressive battery cycle lifespan, and one about, well, a competitor blatantly lying about their specs and costing Samsung and the Z Fold 7 the title of world's thinnest foldable. So let's break it all down. What's up guys, Sal here. So first up, let's talk about that lie. If you've been following the Z Fold 7 coverage over the last few months, you probably heard me and a lot of other people saying this would be the thinnest foldable ever when it launched. And then out of nowhere, Honor, a Chinese brand, announced a new foldable and claimed it was 0.1mm thinner than the Fold 7. Which, okay, that's fine, competitive edge, good for them. But then they started doing this whole thing. They went on a bit of a mocking spree. Ads, tweets, graphics, all taking shots at Samsung for being literally just 0.1mm thicker. Like really going in on it. The kind of trolling you'd expect from a company that definitely believes its numbers. Now to be clear, mocking competitors is totally fine. Samsung does it all the time with Apple. It's part of the game. But the problem came when we found out that Honor was just flat out lying. Folks like Ice Universe and others started doing direct side-by-sides of the Z Fold 7 and Honor's new foldable, visual comparisons, actual measurements, and it turns out Honor's foldable isn't thinner at all. In fact, it's thicker, noticeably thicker, even to the naked eye. And if you break out tools like a vernier caliper, yeah, Samsung's numbers hold up. Honor's? Not even close. They claimed 8.8mm, the actual number is more like 9.4mm. That's not a rounding error, that's a totally different category of measurement. And it gets better. They ran another test where you place a card across both foldables. The thinner one will naturally cause the card to tilt towards itself. And yeah, it tilts towards the Z Fold 7. Same with a ball roll test. Ball rolls towards a thinner device every time, and it's the Z Fold 7 every single time. So what does this mean? It means Honor knowingly published false specs. They cost Samsung the ability to market this phone as the world's thinnest foldable, and they did it by literally cheating the numbers. And honestly, I hope Samsung does something about that, because you can't just make up dimensions and then dunk on the competition for being accurate. Now I dug a little deeper to see how Honor's justifying this, and here's what I found on their website. When they measured their phone's thickness, they straight up didn't include the protective film layers, both inside and out. And they also mentioned they're using their own measurement system, meaning no third-party verification. So yeah, you're telling me you're ignoring the actual parts that people interact with, those protective films that are part of the screens, just so you can shave a few millimeters off and call yourself the thinnest? And then you go and mock other companies for playing fair. It's just wild. Peak Chinese brand behavior right there. And look, I'm not shocked. Honor used to be a Huawei sub-brand, and even though they've technically separated, it looks like the habit of lying didn't go anywhere. Anyway, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this one. Drop a comment below, let's talk about it. Alright, next, the S Pen. Yep, there's a chance it could return to the full lineup. But a quick reminder before we talk about that. If you're still thinking about picking up the Z Fold 7, Flip 7 or the Watch 8, the pre-order deals are still live and the bundle offers are pretty solid right now. Extra perks, better trade-in, and $50 Samsung credit if you use my link down below. So if you've been on the fence, this is probably the best time. Links down below. So here's the deal with the S Pen. The Z Fold 7 doesn't support it because Samsung removed the digitizer in order to make the phone thinner. But in a bit of a twist, Samsung's head of product planning recently said that the S Pen might make a comeback, but only under two conditions. One, if there's enough user demand. And two, if they can make it work without a digitizer and without a battery. Now this lines up with what we've heard about Samsung's partnership with HiDeep. That's the company helping them develop the S Pen that doesn't rely on a digitizer or internal power. But apparently the tech is just not ready yet. Samsung reportedly couldn't make it perform as well as the current S Pen, and that's likely why it didn't ship with the Z Fold 7. If I had to guess, Samsung probably hoped this new S Pen would be ready in time for the Fold 7's launch. That's why we're hearing so many rumors from credible sources a few months back. But clearly the final version didn't make the cut. Still, this tells us that Samsung hasn't given up on the S Pen, and once that new version is ready, It will work with the Z Fold 7 and with other devices too, because again, it doesn't need a digitizer to function. Alright, last major point. While the battery on the Z Fold 7 is the same as the Fold 6, the real story here is the charging cycle. This battery is rated to retain 80% capacity even after 2000 charge cycles. For context, if you charge it once a day, that's over 6 years before it drops below 80% health. Now let's compare that to other flagships. The iPhone 16 Pro Max, 1000 cycles. Pixel 9 Pro XL, 1000 cycles. Even phones using silicon carbon batteries, still 1000 cycles. So Samsung's top tier phones, including the Z Fold 7, S25 Ultra, and even the Fold 6, all have batteries that last twice as long as those competitors. And that's not theoretical. That's data from the European Energy Labeling Registry. Now I know some people keep criticizing Samsung for not using silicon carbon batteries. I get it, they have the potential to increase capacity and reduce charging times. But the trade-off is durability. Silicon expands a lot when it charges. That swelling can damage the battery structure over time, leading to a shorter lifespan. And that's why companies like Samsung, Apple, and Google are still holding off. But Samsung is working on it though. They've said so publicly, but until they can reduce the wear and tear from that swelling effect, don't expect to see it on their flagships anytime soon. Again, if you're thinking about getting the Z Fold 7 or the Watch 8, the offer links are down below. And one more thing before we wrap, Samsung's finally starting to talk about their first trifold phone. They didn't mention it during Unpacked, but we're now getting some real post-event details. Click here to check that out, and I'll see you there.